Kia ora, whānau. It is Festival Diaries day 35 and I am now home in Thames. I've just done 5 festivals in 5 weeks, kicking off with Resolution Festival up at Tumanako, and then Revive Festival in Gisborne, Eden Festival at Hayden, NZ Spirit South, the first one, down in Christchurch at Orton Bradley Park. And then the final one was Evolve Festival at Nelson, in Nelson. Oh, and then the Mammoth Mission last night to get home. Got home at like 1 a.m. So here's some reflections on coming home, being on the festival tour, and how I'm beginning to feel like it's changed me from like quite deeply. Just noticing as I'm speaking to you all right now, just feeling emotion, like heart open, I think, just heart open, and so grateful for the adventure that I've been on, for all of the people that I've come in contact with, and particularly the crew that I rolled around in the South Island with, David and Sasha and Leah, Ayumi and Franco. We went on an amazing mission. Yesterday when I was driving back from Wellington, got into Wellington on the ferry at around 4 o'clock-ish, picked up my car, hit the road at 5, and I knew it would be a solid 7-hour drive. And of course I had to stop for gas and, stopped a few times, so it's 8 hours in total. So I listened to podcasts. I caught up with Dane Thomas's Esoteric Entrepreneur. I caught up with Jaya Kaula's Satsang, which I love, and also listened to some audiobooks, including the story of Milarepa and the consequences of capitalism, Noam Chomsky. This is an interesting mix, I guess, that I'm really attuned to. Is one, I've been deeply committed to the spiritual path for the past 30 odd years. And I would say in the last 3, 4, 5 years that the fruits of that commitment, of showing up for practice, of living the teachings, of dedicating myself and my life really to awakening and liberation, the fruits have just come through massively. And so that's one aspect of what I do. But then I'm also a trained journalist and I'm a writer, and I've been deeply interested in politics and economics my whole life. Like I literally did politics and economics at university. And so, here's me listening to Noam Chomsky, and something that's coming up quite strongly is, what's life look like beyond capitalism? How do we begin to just self-organize as communities within capitalism as such, as it begins to potentially transition? I mean, capitalism realism, I think that's the phrase, is this idea that it's really hard to imagine a world without capitalism. But it's so important to recognize that societies have organized their social lives and resource lives, you could say, and all of that for eons without using capitalism. And a big way of how that happened was through reciprocity. Oh my God, language. Reciprocity, generosity, exchange. Basically, taking care of each other, knowing that when you take care of each other, that you will be taken care of too when you need to be taken care of. And I think, I've come back on just the weekend after massive flooding in Auckland, and so many people have had their homes completely flooded out. They've lost their cars, they've lost all of their belongings. They may or may not have insurance. Like, there's a lot going on up in Auckland, and I'm in Thames, which, our basement got flooded, which is not too bad. My rugs down there, my son had a whole area set up and all the rugs are totally soaked. Cleaned up the last of the water today. But some of what I'm seeing going on is the fact that, when shit happens, we have to pitch in together, and the generosity and the kindness and the support and the care that pours through as humans human together. And that was a big part of the festival tour for me as well, was that just taking care of each other. Like we didn't organize or plan, but every night there would somehow be, it would be like, all right, what are we cooking? Who's got what? And everyone would just contribute what they had, and everyone would chip in some way, shape or form, but it wasn't formally organized and figured out and allocated and any of that. It was very much emergent. And this word emergent is definitely something, collaboration and emergence is something I've been tracking for a while, feeling like, and this intersects too with spirituality, feeling like when we can let go of thinking mind, let go of conditioning, and allow ourselves to deeply orientate to awareness and trust what comes through, then everything is going to be okay. Things emerge as are needed in the moment for what's required. And so all of these things are swirling for me, coming home with the recognition that there's a lot of, like one of the festivals I was going to be doing this next weekend, Shiva Shakti, has now been postponed until April 7th to 9th. So I won't be heading up to Auckland for that festival. And there's so many people dealing with the repercussions of flooding. So that's happening. I'm aware of, like, on a purely financial level, when I set off to do this festival tour, one of the questions is, well, how am I going to fund it? Because I don't get paid to present at festivals, not yet anyway. So it's very much, I have to pay to get there, I have to pay for food. Sometimes I get a meal. Evolve fed us, which is beautiful. We get one meal for each presentation. But I'm paying the transportation, the accommodation, and the food so I can be on the road, knowing that when I do that and I show up and I present and people, that there's so much value that I'm offering. So I thought I was really smart, and I was like, okay, I've got my online community, the toolbox, I'll make up little business cards, I'll give a discount voucher, and if I average 3 to 5 people signing up for the toolbox per presentation, then that's going to fund my trip. But life doesn't necessarily work like that. So the actual trip put me into a pretty major deficit, but that's only thinking about it from a capitalist perspective. And on the other side, I feel like this trip has put me into so much gratitude, appreciation, heart openness, and I really feel like it's emotions there has shifted something on a deep level. So much bounty has come through, and where am I going with this? So I start work officially tomorrow. I mean, I've been at work in so many ways for the last 5 weeks, and then today I had nothing scheduled, and tomorrow I'm back with clients, etc. So coming home is this really interesting mix of like, fuck, I gotta like make some money to make up for the deficit over the last 5 weeks, and yet that's not like what I'm actually feeling is I don't even give a fuck. I don't even care if I use my savings to pay for the debt as such. I just feel like, I mean, so obvious, there's so much more to life than money. But I feel like there was a part of me that was still really conditioned in the capitalist way, despite all of the work I've done, despite the money mastery work I've done. In the last 3 years, since we moved to Thames, like my son has never had the experience of us owning a house. I did own a house briefly when I was with his dad. We owned a house together, which we then renovated and sold, but various circumstances, when I left that relationship, there was literally no money left. So I left with a 1-year-old and, full-time single parent with no cash. So 3 years ago, I was like, my son really wants to have the experience of owning a house. So I'm going to focus on increasing my income so I can get a mortgage, as a self-employed person, saving for a deposit, doing all of the things. And this was right before COVID. And of course, house prices then went all the way up. It's 3 years later. I have saved more money than I've ever saved in my entire life, and that feels amazing. And I am so far away. I probably need 10 times as much money to even have a deposit on a house, and I probably still need at least 2 or 3 times, well, maybe 2 times as much income to anchor a mortgage. And I'm looking at how that's impacted the way I've been showing up to my business in the last 2 years, being really focused on buying a house, increasing the income, increasing the deposit, which has also meant that, of course, my tax bill's gone up massively, literally went up by well over 10 times, which is great. It means I'm making more money. But it kind of felt a little bit like, I'm making more money and now I have to pay way more tax. And so part of me is getting to the point where I'm actually like, I think I'm going to let go of owning a house, because I feel like it's actually taking me away from living in a wholehearted, generous, kind of caring, giving kind of way. I'm going to keep saving. Like, it feels really good to keep that savings going. I'm in the share market. as well. And that's feeling really awesome in terms of the long-term goal as I'm heading towards potential retirement one day down the line. But I can feel this kind of like reorientation of like what matters most is connection, and it's community, and it's generosity, and it's creativity. It's stepping out of this consumer capitalist society that has just eaten us up. Like so much of what used to be held in common, there used to be land that was held in common and anyone could graze their livestock on that land, you know, and then all of the land eventually became private property. I mean, that's an anomaly. That's a kind of a new thing. There are other ways to manage land use where it doesn't necessarily need to be held in private hands. And then if we look at things like elder care and child care, all of these things used to be part and parcel of how the community functioned. And now it's all been outsourced and it's all money involved. And in doing that, we literally have ripped apart the fabric of our society. All of this is swirling for me because going to festivals and living in community, like a festival is a community. It's a pop-up community that comes together for the sole purpose of nourishing and entertaining and educating and informing and inspiring and transforming. And so people can experience what it's like to live together for 2, 3, 4, 5 days. And it's so amazing, so amazing. And I know that most of the conscious festivals, they struggle to break even. They definitely don't make any money because there's no alcohol sponsorship, there's no alcohol sales, and yet the service that these festivals are providing to our communities is massive. So this is what's swirling for me as I come home from the 5-week festival tour, bearing in mind that I will be doing at least 4 more festivals over the season, which is why Festival Diaries will continue. What's swirling for me is I feel like I'm letting go of this old conditioned need to prove myself through success that is related to income generation. You know, there's a lot online where mentors and coaches talk about 6-figure, 7-figure big businesses, etc., etc. And there's nothing wrong with that, and it can be totally beneficial and useful. But I feel for what I want to do, I want to work in community and collaboration and connection. And yeah, I still want to bring in amazing freaking money, but it's not that it ever was the only thing. What am I trying to describe here? I can feel this subtle rearranging of how I perceive and interact with reality. And what's curious is a book I ordered when I was away called The Soul of Money has just arrived, and I've only just started reading it, and I'm like, oh, this is freaking amazing. Okay, what else do I want to say before I close up? I'm really feeling the courage and the call to live different. I'm feeling like this moment is all there ever is, this moment. And, you know, coming home has been really tiring, and there's so much that he's doing, all the washing, drying out my tent and cleaning up the flooding in the basement and cleaning the house because the house is chaos and putting away, and then work. But I'm just like, it doesn't matter. This is it. This moment, hanging up this jacket in my closet. This is the moment to feel the contentment and the joy and the gratitude, because there isn't anything else. There is just this right now. And so it's like just so much love for this world. And a big part of the work I do is around minimizing suffering, decreasing suffering. I know so many people are suffering right now, and so oh my God, I'm just aware that I've only got 40 seconds left. I'm trying to sum up in an eloquent way. I'm just going to forget that. Oh, blessings to you all. Blessings for those of you that have been following Festival Diaries. I will be back, and I'll be talking about more about community, about connection, about what lies beyond capitalism, and how can you live your life in the festival way of community and connection and transformation and love and generosity and giving and caring, even in your day-to-day reality. So there's going to be so much more coming on that. There are still festivals that you can go to this season. NZ Spirit North Island is going to be freaking amazing. Splore, Earthbeat, Shiva Shakti. I'll see you there.